Welcome guys, in this video we will take a look at the basics of variables. So we will declare, initialize, and then change the value and observe as it happens. And we'll also take a look at how you can determine the maximum and minimum values. So make a new project, console, application as always, click OK. Okay, so here's our code template. Okay, so here I'll paste some code that I made earlier. And again, if you have that, you can just highlight that code and just comment it out like that. See? Okay, so integer x, close with a semicolon. The int is the data type, okay? And then x is the name of the variable. Now, first of all, logically speaking, variables are used to represent quantities that change or whose values are not known, okay? Or unknown, like this, okay? This is a kind of standard definition of why variables exist, okay? They represent quantities that change or whose values are not known, and the name of the variable is x, and the type of the variable is integer. That's the data type, okay? Now you can see that as in the tooltip when you hover your mouse over int. Okay. Now, let's take a look. Here it says the variable is declared but never used. We will use it. First we'll initialize it. You're going to type x, and notice it shows up in IntelliSense equals, and then you're going to set some value like 45 and close with a semicolon. So this line here, this line, okay, sets the value of the variable to 45. And specifically, this is called initialization, to be fancy. Okay, you can just set, but of course you can just say it's setting the value. Okay, now in the next stage we can say console, that right line, and now you're going to say the value is printed. In other words, the value of x is, and then you'll put that there, and then comma, and the next close with a semicolon. And then the value of x will be merged into that string between the double quotes. The value of x is, and then the value of x will be printed. Now, to see the character of a variable more vividly, we will type x equals and then set that equal to something like this. Okay, let's change the value completely and print that updated value. So we'll write console.writeLine, and then the new value of x is, and then you'll put that within the curly braces, comma x, close with a semicolon, and now this should print the updated value of x. And further, now let's do a whole, should not be the same number. I don't know why I keep typing that here. Okay, change it to 487,696, and now console, right line, and we should be able to print this new updated value. And I want to show a new way of doing that. So the new value of x is, and now instead of putting a placeholder, you're going to put plus x like this. Okay. Now you might ask yourself, truly x is a number, and the value of x is a string, right? It's a sequence of characters like that. Okay. So if that is the case, how do you add these two? Well, the system is smart enough to take x and append it to this string here. Okay, so it will still work. It will still give us nice, decent output. Okay, so now to see this in action one time, let me just give it a build, make sure everything takes. Look on the bottom here, build started, okay, build succeeded. We'll debug here and start without debugging. And it says the value of x is 45, the new value of x is that, and the new value of x is that. You see, so the values of x really do change. Press any key to continue. Alright, now here, we also perhaps want to observe the maximum and minimum values possible for the integer data type. And of course, similar logic holds for other data types. So this is what we'll do. You can type this, okay? Console.writeLine, and the max value of integers is, and then you're going to put here plus int dot, and then you see It says max value, and it says represents the largest possible value of a integer system that integer 32. This field is constant. There you go, so it can't be changed. It's constant, correct? And you set that equal to that. Okay? There you go. Remember, in other words, here, 2, that's a constant. That's a fixed quantity that can never change. There you go. Alright. I guess you redesigned the whole system, right? But, yeah. Not with a little program like this. And then let's type console, that right line, and then the min value of integers is, and now you can repeat this by typing plus and then int.min value, close with a semicolon, and this should display the minimum value. Alright, so let's give a debug and start without debugging. Let's display it, and it tells you the value, then the other 2 updated values, and it tells you the maximum value, and it tells you the minimum value, percentage key to continue. There you go. But I want to also show you, you've seen, and remember, IntelliSense gives you this list, right? You see that little box, okay? And some of them look like ranches. These are clearly not the same constructs, okay? And you see read, if you hover your mouse over it, says reads the next character from the standard input stream, basically what you type into the console window. And then if you hover your mouse over read line, it says reads the next line of characters. So 1 character for read and then line of characters for read line. Okay? And then read key, on the other hand, obtains the next character of function key pressed by the user. The preset key is optionally displayed in the console window. Okay? For our purposes, functionally equivalent to write read or read line. Okay? For our purposes. They're actually not the same, but they both keep the window from disappearing. So in the context of this program, they are considered functionally equivalent. Alright, so we have this, give it a build, and now debug and step into. In other words, context is really important, right? There you go. So x, notice has the value 0 by default. That's important to know. So there's a default value given. Notice that the declared line, where I passed it, if you hover your mouse over it, it will display this. And you see there is again the max value, the min value, you can get them also. And if you expand base, at the base is the object. We'll talk about the object class later. There's a whole hierarchy of classes, and the parent one is object for all of this. Alright. So in other words, this is an object. Step into. There you go. Change it, and notice you can see this happen in the locals window, 1 step at a time. See the values are being updated, print. And notice that we went right past this plus x, so it worked, okay? We'll take a look in a second. The max value, the min value, and if you have your mouse here, it will again display it. So, there you go. And there's everything output on the screen. Okay? And it's waiting for us to, we can now just click that if you want. The type of character, hit enter. And notice that takes you down to the curly brace, and now you can do this. And notice that it unloads from memory because this curly brace, as you can see, matches the opening curly brace for static void main. Okay, so main essentially goes away, right? If you look at the debug and step into, let's be really careful. Let's make sure we don't see this. It's right here, loaded, right? And the whole time it's loaded. Look at the call stack, right? It's always there. You see that? It even tells you the language, you see? Yay. Okay. There you go. So that's there. And now notice at this point, it's still there. You see that? Okay. And now the next stage, let's take a look. As you can see, it unloads, right? There you go. So it goes away from the call stack. And the program, was unloaded essentially. There you go. So you've learned the basics of variables, and in the sidebar I have a link to MSDN. There's a great number of rules that concerns specifically the naming of variables, what is allowed, what is not allowed. It's, to be honest, not very thrilling reading, but I usually name my variables in a way that makes the meaning of the information that it stores somewhat self-evident. Okay, for our purposes, x is sufficient. It's just some quantity, Okay, but in more applied context, name your variables in a way that makes sense, so when you look at them, you know what they represent. Okay, so thanks very much, and I'll see you in another video.